So today, you guys have been practicing your 6-inch cylinders. So I'm going to throw this piece of clay. It's about 1.5 pounds to 1.75 pounds. I'm going to make my 6-inch cylinder, but then I'm going to show you how to compress and collar the top to make a bottle form. Okay. So let's, like normal, make sure it's stuck to my wheel head. And as you've been practicing the cylinders, we've been exploring different ideas with cylinders and shapes with them. The bottle is a little bit more complex form. It's really about throwing in sections. Okay, so you throw one part, then you throw another part, then you throw another part to complete it or put it all together. So it's like it has a beginning, a middle, and a conclusion, like an essay or a writing or a book. So I'm going to start by centering the clay higher like normal. And by centering higher, I've already got part of the height I need, so it's less work later. And just like normal, I'm going to keep this edge clean. Like that. Now I'm going to open it up like normal, like I'm doing this like a regular cylinder. And I'm defining the base distance. Compressing the bottom, making sure there's not a lot of water in there. And start doing my first pull. But I'm going to do this pull a little bit different. When I get here, I'm going to leave the top a little bit thicker. So I'm stopping the pull a little bit below the top. So about right here. Because I need that excess clay if I'm going to make a bottle. I use my sponge with a stick to get the water off. And we're going to go to our next pull. Adjust my speed down a little bit, and here I gather the clay, and here right now this should look familiar. It's going to be looking like your cylinder forms. Now we're going to talk about the different design shapes of bottles, but the key is we're going to look for a body, a shoulder, and a neck, and then we'll deal with trimming and how tricky it is to trim something that has a bottle top. So clean that edge up again. Slow down again. I'm going to shape the bottom because I want to round it out. So this is what I'm talking about by section throwing. So I'm rounding out the bottom to define sort of like the genie bottle shape. And you'll see me shaping with my hand, and I'll go up and back down. And again, where I'm looking is actually right here from where I'm sitting. So I can see the curve as I'm working. And the reason I have to do my shaping down here now, when I have this enclosed as a bottle, I can't get back down there very easily to shape. Now I'm going to get my hands wet, slow this down a little bit, and do what's called collaring. I'm actually going to hold the clay in both hands and compress it inward. And you'll see the shape is going to be different when I remove my hands. And I do this gently. Okay? So now you have almost the shape of a pear. Now, after I compress and collar the clay like this, I take off the excess moisture because you can oversaturate the piece and then your bottle will collapse. And I'm just taking the rib up and cleaning it up. So I've taken off the slurry, the excess water. At this point, I'm going to recompress the rim, and then I'm going to go back inside and shape the upper section to define the shoulder. Just like that. So now this is a bottle form, just a really open one. Now I'm going to recompress inward. Then again back to the rib. And recompress, become taking the moisture off. And this is why I keep talking about this as throwing in steps, because you're defining each section. Now, if there's water inside and we don't want the bottom to crack, I'm going to take my sponge on a stick, put it in there, get the water out. Then I'm going to take that ring, I'm going to be at the bottom of the ring, I'm going to get it wet, then I'm going to compress again. Just like that. Now if the piece is too wet, it'll collapse at that point. And again, back to using the metal rib to take the excess moisture off. Now at this point, the bottom section is pretty much done. Now I'm working on the upper section. So I'm throwing my next section. Working in there, I'm pulling up, and there I'm starting to define the top of my bottle, the neck. I'm going to recompress the top. It'll thicken it up and it'll recenter it, just like I do with the cylinders. Then I'm going to slow this down because it's getting thinner. It's a little bit uneven, but that's normal with bottles and collaring, and I'll show you how to cut off a section in just a second. Right now I got to slow it down. I'm going to take and do another pull. To right here. And sometimes when you do this pull, you can fix the unevenness of it just by compression. And this I actually pretty closely fixed it. Round out it, but I'm going to go ahead and cut that little bit off because it's wet. So I'm going to take my needle tool, and it's almost a little too soft. I'm just going to cut a little section off. Then you can use a tool like this, which is a spoon throwing stick, and you can actually put it on the side of the piece, inside, to do shaping. But this is what I reference as a bottle form. You have the neck, which is what I'm working on now. You have a shoulder, and then you have the body, and then later on the foot ring. Those are the parts that you need to get to for this type of piece for the project. Now, once you get to this point, then you can explore and take chances or take risks. So one of the things I want to do is I'm actually going to flare out the top. I'm going to take this corner, cut into the clay, and that breaks the surface tension. And then I'm going to take my finger and pull out towards me and flare out the top. So now I have a little vase for flowers. Or I'm going to show you a couple different things in a second. So right now I have a vase form. I'm going to cut off the excess clay. With bottles I usually leave a lot of excess clay down here. So that helps support the shape of the whole thing. So I end up trimming a lot on bottles. But what are other things you can do with this shape? You can take your wood stick, a dowel, compress, and put a handle here, and then you got a oil and vinegar or a salad dressing container to pour. That's another type of functionality. And I did this because later on I'll have to explain how to trim something like this. And once you get to this point, you just cut it off, pick it up, and then that's a bottle form. And then you start on the next one.